I got a question for you this week. You feel like churning butter? Well, get ready because week number 6, we're doing the Churndash. Let's get started. So the Churndash block, well, the story goes that this block was actually inspired by a butter churn. If you take a look at what a real butter churn looks like, the design of it kind of looks like a Churndash block. So it would make sense that this block would be inspired by that. Well, I kind of felt the need to just incorporate it in our sew-along here. So week number 6, the Churndash block. So to start off, we're going to choose 9 2.5-inch background squares, and we are going to then have 4 2.5 print squares, and I must be crazy because these are very, very small. With the print squares, we're gonna set these aside for a second, and on 2 of the background squares, we are going to mark a line from corner to corner. We're going to be making half squares, triangles out of them. So we are going to, on the wrong side of the fabric, mark a diagonal line from corner to corner. And I'm just using a pencil here. You can use any marking tool that you like or of your choice. Just don't use a Sharpie pen because that just tends to bleed right through the fabric. So I'm just going corner to corner. And we're going to just turn these into half square triangles. Now, what we'll do then is we'll take a background and a print square, put them right sides together. Then we will sew a 1/4 inch away from that center line on both sides of the line. So 1/4 inch down here and then a 1/4 inch away from that center line down here. We'll do that to these two pairs. Then with the other print, we're going to put it right side together with another background square. We're going to sew 1/4 inch on one side, 1/4 inch down on this side, and they started. Well, the neighbors decided to throw a birthday party as soon as I hit the record button. And they had a live band. Yep, today was just not my day. But if there's one thing I know, it's how to improvise. So, we go with the flow. Well, you know what they say, when you can't beat them, join them. So I thought maybe I can salvage this recording session by just sewing the blocks and videotaping that and then doing a voiceover over all of that background noise. But yeah, that just never happened because I started dancing more than sewing. And you know how sometimes, well, even though you don't know the words to the song, or you don't even know the song itself, but the song is so catchy that you start singing along to it? Yeah, well, this is what happened. Feliz, feliz. Feliz, feliz. Feliz, feliz. Feliz. So yesterday there was a bit of an interruption, but let me just say, well, like I said, if you can't beat them, join them. So we're gonna try this again. Take 2. You know, the Churndash is actually it's actually a very historical block because there's a belief that the Churndash was part of the Underground Railroad. Now, if you're not familiar with that, during the times of slavery, there is stories that certain quilt blocks were actually part of the Underground Railroad, and when people were trying, or when slaves were trying to escape the South, there's rumors that certain blocks meant certain things, and there's sort of like a secret, and I don't want to call it a secret, but there was like a code in which the Churndash was one of the blocks in which it indicated something to slaves and those trying to help slaves escape the South or escape slavery. So it's a pretty interesting history. Again, I don't know what the Churndash means, but you know, if you do the research, you could probably find some interesting facts on it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take 2 of the background squares and 2 of the print squares. We're going to put them right sides together. We're going to take these to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on the right side and a 1/4 inch on the left side on both of these particular squares. Then on the other 2 squares, what we are going to do is we're going to actually, now you can mark the diagonal line, but for me, these 2.5 inch squares are so small that I can basically eyeball this, and plus I do have my Sew Easy seam guide on my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sew a 1/4 inch away from the center of this diagonal, imaginary diagonal line that I have here, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away. Now, if you're not comfortable doing that, you can very well take a ruler and mark the diagonal line on the wrong side of the fabric here. Then you'll have some kind of a guide, or at least some visual guide. Then basically we're doing the 2 at a time half square triangle method, where you'll sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. So let's take this to the sewing machine and let's start sewing. So to recap, on 2 pairs, what I've done is I've actually sewn a 1/4 inch seam here, and a 1/4 inch seam here, and a 1/4 inch seam here, 1/4 inch seam here. And on these particular blocks, I'm actually going to just cut it right in half. So since this is a 2.5 inch block, I should be able to just line it up, or line the fabric edge up there at 1 1/4, in which, let me turn the ruler around. Okay, so I'm just lining it up here at 1 1/4, and cut this in half. And what we will get is I'm going to press my seam open. Here, and I'm pressing the seams open because this block is, I mean, remember this started off as a 2.5 inch square. It's going to get really bulky on the seam, so I do find that when I'm working with smaller pieces, it is much better to actually press the seam open rather than to the side. So this will now measure 2.5 by 1.5, I believe. Nope, by 1 inch. Yep. No, wait. That's 2.5 by 2 inches. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do, we got those 2. And then we'll have this one, which I will also again cut at 1 1/4. Cut that right in half. We'll press the seams open. And I'm just going to use my use woody here. I'm not going to actually iron it until we get the entire block sewn. So we got 4 of these. Okay, now let's press, or let's cut the half square triangles. So let's start with this one, since this is the one with the line drawn down. So now I am going to cut right on that drawn line. Okay, then I'm going to take these triangles and I'm going to square them up at 2 inches. So let's put that there. And I'm lining up the 2-inch, well, let me line that up better. Lining up the 2-inch, let me switch rulers to the square so it'll be a little easier. Lining up 2 inches here at the top and there at the bottom. Now, some people are not comfortable with lining up or doing this method of squaring up. You can, if you prefer, right here on this ruler there is actually a 45-degree line. Now you can take that line, place it right on your seam line, and then just making sure that you have enough fabric here at the bottom as well as here at the side, making sure that it goes beyond the 2-inch line. And I will put close-up pictures of this so that you can actually see what I'm talking about here. But I'm making sure that I have fabric, more or extra fabric beyond this 2-inch line here. And and the fabric on this edge here goes off the ruler, so I'm gonna trim it up and cut the dog ear off there. Then turn it around. Now I'm going to line up this fabric edge here right on that 2-inch line. And again, putting the 45-degree or that 45-degree line from the ruler right on the seam line that I sewed. And making sure that I'm at the 2-inch mark here, as well as at the 2-inch mark here. Then I can cut or trim off all of the excess. And then there I have my 1/2 inch or my half square triangle, which should measure 2 inches. And which, yep, it does. Okay, so with these, I am going to press the seams open again. And I'm going to use woody to just get those seams open. And here is the final block. Now this block will measure 6.5 inches. Pretty small if you ask me. But The block is just so cute that I actually made a second one, and I know there's a third one here somewhere in all of this mess. Yeah. Well, I think I actually might make a whole quilt out of this particular 6-inch block. So look out for a video in the future about that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell for notifications on when I upload the next video. And join the Facebook group discussion at Treasure Heart Creations with the hashtag THC5252. And post your pictures on Instagram on the blocks that you made. I like to actually see what others are creating. Hope you enjoyed this video, and go out and create something. So we have a little bit of unfinished business here because, as I mentioned in the last video, I'm giving away 2 Robert Kaufman Christmas panels to people that joined the Facebook discussion group of Treasure Heart Creations. And since then, people have been pouring in, and their names are in here. So I'm going to pick the first one, which will be Sherry Harris. Congratulations, you're the winner of one of those Robert Kaufman panels. And the next one will be Jerry Marcotti. So I'll be contacting the both of you through Facebook to get your mailing address and information. Now, those of you who are part of the Facebook discussion group, don't worry, because next video I'll be announcing another giveaway. I'll have more details in the next video. Thanks for subscribing. Hope you enjoyed this week's edition, and go out and create something.